In the Underwater Menace, a comfortable formula for the Second Doctor's era really sets in. You see, with this with this serial, we witness, well, firstly, Jamie's first introduction to a world outside his own, his first venture in the TARDIS, but also the Second Doctor being introduced to a world, kind of assessing the situation, but gaining a little foothold via hiding his true colours, or by gaining the kind of trust of someone within this new society they're visiting, and then the great gothic horror menace that lies submerged beneath the surface. And so let's read out some behind the scenes information related to the Underwater Menace. This story had the working titles of The Fish People, Under the Sea, also referred to as Doctor Who Under the Sea, and Atlanta. Only episodes 2 and 3 of this 4-part story exist in the BBC archives as 16mm black and white film telerecordings. Since Jamie isn't actually shown inside the TARDIS in the Highlanders, episode 1 of this story has his bigger on the inside moment. Episode 1 of this serial concludes a run of 12 missing episodes, which begins with episode 4 of The 10th Planet. As of 2020, this is the longest run of missing episodes. At the end of episode 3, Professor Zaroff utters a timeless line, "Nothing in the world can stop me now." Davros and the Fifth Doctor would say similar lines in Journey's End and the Caves of Androzani, respectively. According to Anik Wills on the DVD commentary, the main cast didn't gel with director Julia Smith. We would mess around and she would get more and more like a school teacher, so he got naughtier and naughtier. Pat would call her a miserable old bitch, but that's what we were like. We had power, we were the main actors. Otherwise, most of the directors we got on really well with. Only Julia had a bad time with us. We made her life a misery. It's a shame, it's a well-directed serial. Julia Smith knew what she was doing. In the opening TARDIS scene, Polly, Ben and the Doctor are each heard thinking about where they would like to land next in a rare example of internal monologue. This was achieved by pre-recording the actors' voices and playing them back during the making of the episode. Zara was at one point assisted by a female scientist called Steen. Originally there was a character named E-Bomb, but it was then decided to merge her with Ara. In an early draft of the story, Zaroff's motivation to blow up the Earth stemmed from his being driven mad by the deaths of his wife and children in a car crash. While the War Machine still remains the only time in the history of the classic series where the Doctor is referred to explicitly as Doctor Who, where the term also features in An Unearthly Child and The Gunfighters, the Doctor's note to Zaroff in the first episode is signed Dr. W, making this the second closest the Doctor has ever come to referring to himself as Doctor Who until the 12th Doctor used it in World Enough and Time. Since its original discovery by Ian Levine following an audit of the BBC archives in 1977, Episode 3 was thought to be the earliest surviving episode from the Patrick Troughton era, until Episode 2 was recovered on the 19th of September 2011. This was the first story about the lost city Atlantis. One music cue from this story exists, entitled The Fish People. This is the final story in which the Second Doctor wears his stovepipe hat. It makes its last on-screen appearance during the closing TARDIS interior of a scene of Episode 4, when it is worn by Polly, as shown in John Cura's telesnaps. Hugh David was originally offered the chance to direct this story, but he turned it down as he felt it was too expensive for the show's budget. Patrick Troughton was reputedly particularly unhappy about the production. He's reported to have described the show as having ridiculous costumes and makeup of the Fish People. I adore the outfits of the Fish People, it's just genius. Innes Lloyd disliked the story, admitting that it did look like something from a 50s American B-movie, but in the best way possible, in this kind of great new 60s goofy gothic horror look. I think it's brilliant and physical and nice. I think it's quite seamless compared to the 50s stuff in America. Anyway, Anik Wills was unhappy that Polly was reduced to being a damsel in distress. Fair, she and the rest of the cast particularly disliked the infamous scene where Jamie slaps her to break her out of a mental breakdown. Yeah. Michael Cray said of the story, "You just knew it was a dodo. Oh, come on. The whole thing was badly conceived. Had the old scripts and costumes and everything. It ended up as a pantomime. Julia Smith was so emotionally charged that she'd burst into tears at anything. Wow." Bernard Lodge's new title sequence that featured Patrick Troughton's face was going to be debuted in this story. It was held off until the Macro Terror. Now that he was a main character, Fraser Hines decided to begin modulating the Highland lilt he had employed in the Highlanders, achieving a more conventional Scots accent. I got you. Many of the swimming shots are actually performed in mid-air using Kirby wires. And this will, if it goes too much longer, we can get blocked. So, thanks again, my friends. Appreciate it. Episodes 2 and 3 of this will be available, so enjoy that. Get excited for those.